Welcome to the Two-Way Street podcast with Rick Harris of Work Boot Consulting and Rob Berry of St. Louis Bath and Renovations. Our aim is to bridge the gap between contractors and consumers. Remember, communication is always a two-way street.
Welcome to the Two-Way Street podcast. I'm Rick Harris of Work Boot Consulting. I'm joined by my good friend, Rob Berry of St. Louis Bath and Renovation. And today, Rob, we have a guest. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Rob, and I want you to introduce our guest. And we want to have a really interesting, informative conversation with John today.
Yeah, thanks for everybody for tuning in and following along. As Rick said, I'm Rob with St. Louis Bath and Renovation, and I wouldn't be where I am today without good influences and mentors. And I'm sure you guys are in a similar position, but today I get to share the spotlight with who I consider a very good friend of mine and a mentor. His name's John Farmer, and he's going to give us some insights today on sales approach and different buyer types. And I'm sure we may talk about a couple of other things, and we're also going to have, if time allows in our next schedule over the next couple of weeks or so, we're going to have a sister companion to this show where we can dive further into buyer types and why you want to know the difference versus someone that's a tire kicker versus a technical buyer, or all these things that John's going to get into. But hey, John, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, well, thank you for that introduction. And it's an honor and privilege to be here. I appreciate you asking. So I got into this business, remodeling business, a long time ago, a time when the economy was really not doing well at all. Double-digit inflation, double-digit unemployment, prime rate like 19%, crazy times. But I was young, kind of dumb, and came out of a sports background, so to speak, in college. So it was, take that mountain, no excuses. So got in this and have run it ever since. I've always worked with people that either remodeling homes, or there was a period I was also helping people finance projects. I was in the mortgage business. I owned my own mortgage company for a period of time. During that time, I was calling on the company I work for right now to see if I couldn't help them with some of their clients that might not have been able to secure standalone financing, unsecured financing. And they turned the tables on me and recruited me and got me back in. And so here I am. I'm back where my roots all began back in the day. I've had a lot of different roles. Sorry, I didn't hear.
Fixing houses.
Yes, yeah, somehow, some way, either fixing them or, like I said, little gap there, 19-year gap, helping people buy, and sometimes refinance. So we have a unique product because we've developed it. So this is coming from a perspective of a company that's been in existence since 1903. We've been family-owned 5 generations, very innovative. Sometimes companies that go from family to family start to get diluted. The founders always work the hardest to get it up going. Sometimes second generation can carry that momentum, third, fourth. If you ever look at any of the history of companies that have been that way, developed that way, sometimes it goes downhill. We've gone up. In 2020, we had a $2.3 billion revenue nationwide. It was a record in 2020. Last year in 2025, we're over 5 billion. And so we've doubled that over a period of time. So even though we're an old company, our numbers have been going up. And a lot of it is due to new sales methodology that we took on. So we sent out surveys to people who buy, people who don't buy, and certainly our installation jobs. And on the not yet buyer, we wanted to see why they didn't buy. And we learned from those responses. And a lot of it is, the old days you go A to Z. And if somebody's wanting to get ahead of you and they got questions, you can say, well, I'm going to get to that in a little bit. You don't do that today. People research more. They have more knowledge. And there's things you might want to cover that they already know. So, don't beat a dead horse for that, but you have to identify that. So, but backing up a little bit, when we interview salesperson. We call them a design consultant because we do a lot of design in our methodology. I'm looking for entrepreneurial types. And I know on your previous podcast, in fact, there was discussion of sometimes when you get people that are like-minded and really drivers, it's good and bad because they might want to break off on their own. And to me, I've never feared that. Yes, sometimes you work hard, you develop the right people, and you hate to lose them. But it's also a testament that you had the right person. And so we look for entrepreneurial types and then help retain them, try and show them that they can run a business under a business. They can have their business on how they want to conduct things within the realm of what we're going to deliver at the end of it all. And it's really lead gen. We provide great leads for everyone, but we pay twice the commission if somebody has an organic, lead of their own that they develop. And so why not? Why would you not want to do that, at least on a consistent basis? So, but, I look back at the pro football teams, you got a head coach, general manager, and you got all these assistants, maybe offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and they do a really great job. Next thing you know, they're a head coach somewhere. And the head coach is always pulling for them to get that job, even though they're going to lose them. And they're even going to go to the competition. They're going to have to go against them. And I think that's a good mindset when you hire is, if I teach this person enough and they want to branch off, so be it. You had somebody really good. You never know when they're going to come back too. It might not work as well. So I know.
So John, if I could interrupt for a second,
Yes.
And man, some of the things that you've mentioned, well, because I've been in business for almost 22 years now, I can hear some of that. And man, most of what you're saying, I really wish I would have known that at year one. Because you spoke about some basics, but you also spoke about some high level stuff. And if people are taking notes and paying attention, you really threw a lot at us there. If you would, not dumb it down for us, but if you could maybe speak to that contractor that is at year 1 to year 5 and why he really needs to know his customer avatar and why the things that you're about to go into, why they're so important, because things you learn in year 1 to year 5 are going to have implications in year 10, year 20.
That's true. We've really been focusing more and more on the buyer type, identifying their process. I'm a spec and tech buyer. That's one category. If I go in every home thinking the client has done all their research, they know as much as me, everything they can learn online these days, I'm going to be disappointed and probably fail a lot because not everyone is. Ideally, for me, I wish they were, because then all we would do is just validate what they know and maybe fill in a few blanks. So the different types of buyer types that we have identified is this, all show. These are people who style, in our business, color, black windows. They're stylish. They look cool. They pop. They're unique. We have other colors. White is boring, but sometimes white's the best color for a home. But you get into black. That is a color that is requested the most now when it comes. And I don't think it's going to be trendy where it's going to go out because we have to make sure any color we offer is something that when they do partials, we still are going to offer that later to finish the project. Most of our clients do this in phases. So our show is a lot of it is stellar style, color, uniqueness. We also know there's one and dones. One and done is somebody who will ask questions about installation and warranties. They might not be as stylish as some others in what they pick out. But if they're asking about the install and they're asking about warranties, they just want peace of mind to know it's done correctly up front and don't have to have a lot of repeat. There's also those that are deals. Deals people are bargain hunters. They probably really capitalize on the buy one, get one ads that they see. It's funny because there is a counter to that. there's a phrase now called splaving. I don't know if you guys have ever heard this. Spending
First
to
time.
save. All right. Splaving is people who spend to save. And in some cases, they're buying more than they need because they think you're getting a bargain.
Poverty
So,
mindset.
yeah, it's splaving. That's a new one. I don't know if it'll hit Webster or not, but that's the word I've seen. Connections people. These are people who, we rent space at a Walmart, for instance. So again, this is all different for every company, how they market. But our marketing is multifaceted. And if we rent space in Walmart, it's somebody that when they check out, they're walking by and go to their car, they might have gone in for, like we're getting ready to get an ice storm. So everybody's buying toilet paper, water, eggs,
Milk, bread.
and they didn't go in there to sign up for an appointment to go get windows. They have us inspect their windows and all that. But if they stop to talk to us, they're connections people. They're easy to talk to. They like to talk to people. I'm going to blow by that like a stop sign in a parking lot. That's not my style. I would not sign up for anything on a whim to go walking by somebody who happens to be selling it. But we work a lot of things. The home shows are a little more targeted. People are there, but they might not be there for what we sell. So, the buyer type is really important. And sometimes you'll have polar opposites. You might have a wife who is spec and tech, and the husband is all connections. He just wants to talk and connect and, feel good about things. Small talk, where spec and tech people are not about small talk. They kind of want to get into it a little bit more. They're more about the nuts and bolts of what you have. So we spent a lot of time on that. We spent a lot of time on mindset too.
That's funny that you say that, because that's most of what this is about. And the impetus for this our podcast was most relationships I've seen that failed were because of a lack of communication. And so I thought, base level, what are the things that go wrong that I failed at? Well, it was because I didn't communicate very well to the client. So how can I communicate better? If I could have communicated perfectly, well, then of course that it would have been up to them to understand perfectly. So a breakdown in communication is what this podcast is all about. Mm-hmm. So to the contractors that are listening, John, how would that new or old contractor, how would they discern if somebody's a spec and tech, or if they're a connections person, or if they're the other buyer types? How could they sniff that out to better see if there's a good fit? And also for the client that is trying to sniff out if this is a good company or not, because sure. We're all about telling the truth and being open and honest, because we're not a good fit for everybody. Yeah. But I'm also not the least expensive contractor to show up at your door. And I know that you in the windows and doors business, that's a race to the bottom. So how can a client that's looking for a good company, how can they pick the best contractor and that style of communication, so that they know that it's a good fit, so that it's just as good and exciting as at the end of the job as it is at the beginning?
Yeah, and that's the ultimate, right? I ask questions, a lot of questions. If I'm talking as much as them, I'm failing. And those questions have to be, I don't want to say so much strategic, but they have to get more than a yes or no. And if that's all you're getting, you got to ask them to elaborate if they would, and why. What's in it for them, to let you know, to be transparent on their side. Some people have had past experiences with a contractor that was horrible, so they're guarded right away. I've asked that question. If I feel like they're not wanting to really communicate and they just want a number out of me, I'll bring it up. Have you ever had anything done around the home in the past that didn't go the way you wanted? Can you tell me more about that? What would have been better? And it's not so much so you can say, oh, well, we do this, we do this, we do this. You don't talk about you at that point. You just want to know, what have they dealt with? That's going to really let you know a lot.
That's a great question. Yeah. A great question.
And I always let people know that, look, this is a two-way street. I'm here to listen, understand, educate, and see if we have the right solution. And I tell people up front, there's times we are not the right company. I might not be able to help you. And that gets them to kind of lean in more like, well, what do you mean?
Yeah,
How
you took the
can you
power
not?
back.
You know, and I want them to lean in. I want them to ask me some questions, but I want them to open up. That's the main thing. And with some people, like I said, connections people, it's really easy. They're very talkative already. But you might have, again, a polar opposite in that if it's a couple. And so connections people talk maybe a lot more than you even want them to talk. It might not be things relative to why you're there, but that's okay. Let them talk. It'll reveal some things about how they think. Spec and tech, there's so much online, but there's so much that's not correct online. A lot of companies just kind of tease you with some things and they never put the right pricing on. It seems to be low from what I ever see. So the spec and tech is more data driven, detail oriented. They're going to be more logical, probably slower to decide. So don't talk about, hey, we can get together today. Don't introduce the word today too quickly to spec and tech. But let them know that at the end of all this, we're either the right company or we're not. I don't like to live in the gray. I'm a black and white person personally, and I want the whole meeting to kind of evolve that way. Either we're the right company or we're not. And if we're not, I'll be, thankful for the opportunity and maybe be able to point you in the right direction if we're not the right company.
Hey, John, give me an example. Let's role play here for a second. If you can do all this by yourself, then fine. But give me an example about the today thing with the spec and tech. Let's dive into that a bit.
Well, with spec and tech, because I know they take a lot of time because they want to know everything up and down about your service, your product, all that. But at the end of it all, I present to them that look, when we're done, I'll make sure that I educate and see if we have the right solution to a point where I'm confident you're going to understand that we're either the right company or we're not. And at that point, if we are, we can move forward. There's some advantages to you. In my business, it's a very logical reason why we can discount one more discount while I'm there. So you always have the advertised discount. It might be a mailer. It could be something in, AARP magazine in the back of the magazine, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, that's good for a period of time. But we have a product that we enlisted now to measure. It's called TechSee, TECHSEE. And that's a great product. What it is basically is we have technicians that sit behind a computer. They used to drive out behind all the salespeople. Now we drive a lot, 3-hour radius out of each office, sometimes even more, depends if it's a remote area. But in the Memphis market, we go all the way to Missouri, Kentucky, over in Arkansas, down in Mississippi, and halfway across the state. And it's a big state. And so to send someone back out requires a company vehicle. We had a fleet of them. And it was all these technicians they would drive 5 hours a day and get paid for 8. They'd only be in 2 homes a day. That's because of distance. Now they can measure through my phone 3 in an hour. They can sit behind a screen and never have to leave. We can measure in the evening up until 8:30 at night. We pay people to do that. And our phone becomes part of that process. And so I explain to people, I can save you more money today because we're saving. We decided not to keep that profit margin that we were incurring, but to go ahead and pass it on. And so for spec and tech or anybody, we've got a pretty good reason on why we can discount. It's legit. It's not just fluffed in there. And if we send someone back out, we will. It's just going to cost more. It's more time, more delay.
So you're more directing that person that Mrs. Smith says, "Hey, John, that sounds great, but let me think about it."
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I think about it's kind of a stall. That's not really an objection.
Get into all that as much as you want, but
yeah,
it's so funny that and this is for the clients that are out there, for the Mr. and Mrs. homeowners out there. It's okay if you don't show us all of your cards, but anything that comes out of your mouth, we've heard that before. And In the negative sense, we would call that an excuse. In a positive sense, man, you just want to be a smart, sharp buyer. It does not hurt my feelings, but there's not a thing that you're going to say unless you tell me one of your kids got stuck in a sewer pipe that I haven't heard, or John hasn't heard, or Rick hasn't heard before. Just it's much better. And in one of our previous podcasts, if you followed, it was just about being honest. You don't have to tell us everything, but just be honest with us. Hey, we're getting three bids. Fantastic. Tell me about it.
Right. Yeah. And I agree. And what's interesting is I just had that experience. Someone was telling me, well, we're still at the process of figuring things out. Yada. None of it was tangible, valid reasons. And I finally looked at the guy and I said, is it this? And I pointed to price. He goes, yeah. I go, it's too much money. He goes, yeah. I go, hey, we're good. I shook hands. I did what I could. We're not going to match with everyone. We're the most expensive company. And we feel we have the most value, but it's not the right product for everybody. Somebody might be getting ready to retire and move in a year, and they just don't need the best. They need some. I don't mean they should put lipstick on a pig just to pass the house on and move on, but maybe you don't need the absolute best. And we're very transparent, and we're transparent in the fact that it's 5 to 7 years to break even. Between resale value and fuel savings, that's what we are.
Yeah, if you're flipping the house, that might not be the best choice. But if you're going to be there 10 years, man, your house is going to be quieter, and you're going to save money on any energy bills.
Yep. The comfort. I can tell you, I sit in my great room. I sit with my right side to two big windows.
I got a pretty good room. I don't have a great room.
Yeah. This is a great room, but I pay enough for it, that's for sure. But yeah, it's one of those things where could it be comfort? Could it be security? Could it be aesthetics? That's that, person that's going to be more of an all show. They want to really display their home. There's a lot of reasons why people want to buy. The more, the better. You can build your value easier that way, but sometimes it only takes one. And anybody that says, I want to think about it, they don't have enough information, or they've already made their mind up and they're afraid to insult you maybe, or, let you down, or they're not people.
Or they're using your bid as they found out now it's the high water mark, and now they're going to try and accomplish that for a lesser total amount out the door.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting. Nobody's shocked when I give my price at the end, because we don't wait till then. We do something called EPP, and that is within the first 15 minutes, early price presentation. And it's where I pull up, without showing details of who the people are, I pull up, let's say they have 7 windows and 2 doors they're looking to get a price on. Before I go on that appointment, look up 10 windows and a door, a project that I've already sold. And I can open that up and show, this isn't your job exactly, but this is close. And now they get some kind of an idea. And I always pull up something that's a little bit bigger of a job. That maybe
nice anchor for you.
It's price conditioning. Then we do halftime pricing. So before we bring samples in, we've already measured. I can see on my iPad what we're talking about money-wise. And I tell them, hey, before any discounts, promotions, anything that we're running right now, I think you're going to be at that 55 to 60 range. I'll be right back. I go out and give my samples. So now they've seen a real contract, maybe 2 of people who bought, not exact jobs as theirs, but something to think about. They know it's not going to be a cheap project, but there's so much personalization to it. So you can always let them know that, look, we haven't finalized your design yet. So I'm not showing you this to tell you this is what your project will be, but this is a pretty good ballpark. So we price it. We're very transparent up front, and I don't lose people at this point. And if someone says, hey, sorry to have to come out, I had no idea, that's way out of my ballpark. Well, at least let me show you what you might not buy. We're here, set the time. Let's see, because we have a lot of different ways we can maybe massage this and, work it in. And that's what we do, and we don't follow a direct script, but there are 4 commitments that we always want to get. One is that sometime in the future, they're going to do this project with us or someone else. As soon as it's possible or financially feasible, I want to get that established early on. Then it becomes, at some point, you have to get a commitment on the company, the product, that's 3, and then affordability, that's the final. So we have to cover those 4 commitments. If we miss any of them, it's you can't go back. Once the price is in front of them, you're not going to, recapture it. And I think as a consumer, I would want to know all that. I'd want to know, well, who's doing this work?
Well, I like that 4 commitments approach. I tell you what, I could use some of that in how we do things, but then at the end, that helps to get rid of further objections, does it not?
Yeah. And with the price conditioning, I never ever talk about my competition directly by name.
Terrible idea.
Yeah, it is. It really is. But I can certainly talk about materials and give them categories. Those kitchen remodeling countertops. How many different types of countertops are there? I guess I'm not in that business, but I can imagine Formica would probably be the lowest price countertop, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got granite, you've got other ones, you've got
quartz,
Corian or
soapstone,
culture,
you got butcher block, you got a ton.
Exactly, you got the butcher block. So you could probably give kind of ranges on how that can all change, so that if somebody's like, well, listen, I got a cheaper bid. Well, what are the ingredients to it all? What's going on? What is the difference? In my side, when it comes to windows, it's either going to be wood, metal, a wood with clad, vinyl, fiberglass, or my product. We got 31 patents on our frame. So that really gives me an advantage. But we're not cheap, or we are expensive. And I tell people all the time, we win 2 out of 3 every time. You're going to love the company, you're going to love the product. And I tell them up front, you are not going to love the price. We don't know how to do all 3. We don't know how to be the great company and have the great product.
Well, that's great. Say that again, John. What you just said was gold.
I always tell people that we will win 2 out of 3. You're going to love the company, you'll love the product, but you won't love the price. But we do have ways to make it affordable, and I'll show you what that means, but we don't know how to be the great company with a great product and be the cheap price. We just don't fit that.
And what you just said there is something that Rick and I probably have said, maybe way too much, if that's possible, but how to be honest with clients. Well, you can't have the world's greatest product and not be honest with people, but you could have a terrible product and not be honest with people, right?
Yeah.
And all those things, man, there's just so many things that I just heard you say it's making my head spin. But that's fantastic, because you're telling them, hey, they're buying a Rolls Royce. They're not buying a Chevy. And if we were buying a Chevy, we wouldn't expect the Rolls Royce price. But if we show them, hey, you're looking at a Rolls Royce, they already know that it's not going to be $100,000. It's not going to be $200,000.
Yeah. Well, and to add some of that, I personally don't use cars as a reference. It depends what's in their driveway, but a lot of people can suddenly say, "Well, I don't need a Rolls Royce."
Right.
That's too much. That's flamboyant. I'm not that way. I just want to, are you looking for a permanent solution or a quick fix? That's what I ask.
Mm-hmm.
And quick fixes are cheap. They're the cheap ones. Get in, get out. And some people want that. It depends on their home, but most people don't. So again, I'm talking about, home improvements, specifically windows and doors, but I have pictures of a 2-year-old window system that I took out of a house. And it wasn't the builder grade window that the builder put in. They had replaced windows with one of our competitors, and within 2 years, they were unhappy with them. And so that kind of takes care. What's the most expensive window you can buy? One you don't like.
Yeah, and the one you replaced in 4 months.
Yeah. And it'd be the same way. Like in your business, you do much. You've worked with me at my home, and you've worked with me at my business and done great work. And I've always trusted you and all that. But at the end of the day, I think people want a permanent solution. They all become one and dones at that point. They don't want to do this over and over.
I don't know that I had thought of it quite that way, and I know that I behave that way, but I don't know if I've thought of it quite that way about the permanent solution. Rick, what do you take from that, or what have you heard in all these pearls that John's throwing out at us? What takeaway?
A ton. I was writing some stuff down. I'm going to claim it as my own idea, by the way, John.
Do it.
Plagiarism.
Because I've already done that. What you're hearing is what I've learned from other people.
That's right. There's I believe in R&D, which is rob and duplicate. A couple. I love everything that you've said, and it's not. What I'm hearing is that you're not there to do sales; you're there to advise. Is primarily what I'm hearing. But I had I have three questions, and I know we don't have a whole ton of time, but I've seen the commercials for Renewal by Andersen, and you can tell right away it is not the cheap product, or it's not a cheap meaning quality wise. One of the things that I love is the current ad that I've seen is you can just get one. If you just want one, we'll do just one, which I think is amazing. The questions that I've got, there's two, is how do you ensure that the experience that the advisor has laid out, that what is going to happen, that those feelings and the experience continues on from right through to the install and the cleanup and everything else? How do you ensure? Because I've seen it happen 100 times where, they meet the person, they talk, they sign the agreement, and all of a sudden a crew rolls in and they end up steamrolling through the project, and they don't understand.
We bought John Farmer, but we're not getting the John Farmer installation experience. We got the John Farmer sales experience.
Yes.
Right.
But we didn't get the follow through.
Yeah.
And we sure like that John guy.
Yeah. Well, and that is really more important, I think. You're talking about having a good operations team. That's what we do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And I did a national search to hire the operations manager for the Memphis office. We grabbed him out of New Jersey. He's not from there originally, Minnesota, but he was running a big company from an operations standpoint. Then I hired the assistant operations manager. I hired the production manager who oversees all the crews. Stole him from Home Depot. He'd been there 10 years, and we knew he had a good reputation. We like to hire up. We pay extra to get the better people, because at the end, it's got to be a great experience. I
hope homeowners heard that, what you just said. Hey, we hire up.
Yes.
If you're, it's okay if you're a bargain shop or Mr. or Mrs. Homeowner, but what John just said was key. If we hire, if me as the boss, if I hire a cheap guy, what am I going to get?
Yeah.
What kind of results am I going to get? Am I going to get detail oriented? Am I going to get the guy that cares about dust on the floor? Or do we hire up and we hire the best?
Yeah. So we have 4 pillars of something we call signature service. And what's interesting, I'm going to back up one moment and just say, a lot of good salespeople sell features. The great salespeople sell outcomes, but the pinnacle of a great salesperson is they sell feelings. How is somebody going to feel at the end? So we have a great product. All of our products, we have all these hands-on, tangible, demonstrative kind of ways to show them how it's going to serve them. But at the end of the day, the 4 pillars are trust, respect, cared for, and delighted. Trust is trust. They need to trust us. And we can't break that trust later by not fulfilling what we said we're going to do. This is feelings. People buy a tangible item, but it's how they feel that really is going to matter at the end of it all. So the trust, that's number 1. Respect is how we conduct ourselves from the time we get there. I get to a home 3 minutes early, not 5, never 1 minute late. I drove by 15 minutes early. I want to get a lay of the land, make sure I know where I'm going. And at that point, I pull up in their driveway at 3 minutes till, and it's about a minute to get out, grab my stuff, and maybe, make my approach. Don't want to be too early. Don't want to be late at all. So that's part of the respect. Offer to take off your shoes if it's an inclement day. Whatever you have to do to show them that, hey, I respect your home and the ability to come in here and speak to you. The cared for is how we do the job when we're there. Laying tarps, I always tell people, and it's true, we will leave your home clean as we found it, if not cleaner. And, when it's things around a window that gets drapes pulled and, things kind of declare, we're going to clean all that up. The light is doing something extra that they didn't expect. And that's hard to do when you're selling windows that are as expensive as ours. How do people end up at the end feeling they got even more than what they thought? They already have a high level expectation. So that's really what it comes down to, is having operations people that everyone to buy in, why that's important. And we have surveys that go out on everything. Any human contact, a survey goes out by a third party that we can't control. So if there was a homeowner, if there was one that wasn't happy somehow, they're going to get the survey. Some companies will only release surveys to the happy client.
That's right.
And it is so
Give me your references.
It's so skewed. It's so wrong. And how do you learn from that? You want to know everything. We have concierges that call every job. And while the job's still in progress, we say, hey, right now, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being, how's our crew doing? This is why the crew is still working.
Mm.
We are looking for 9 or 10. 8 is world class. We want to blow that away. We feel an 8 out of 10 is a failure. We want a 9 or a 10 on that survey. And last year, our installation surveys came at 95.2, something like that. So for every 9, we had a 10. And that's what we push hard on. And everyone knows what the metrics are and what they should. And each salesperson is graded on those same. So if a salesperson's doing the right job, they're gonna go to their installs. If they can't be there that day, they're gonna be there soon after. And they're gonna let people know, here's my cell. You call me. I'm with a client, but you need me. Just text me and say, hey, this is kind of urgent if you can break away. My client, whoever I'm talking to at that moment, probably will appreciate that. I'm taking a moment to, can I break up for a moment and talk to somebody they're calling? They probably need something. It would just be a second. They're not offended. They look at that as, okay, you do that for me too then. So being very available, educating them. And yeah, if they don't get delivery of what we say, I look bad, right? So Rick, the one window, we know they're going to love it so much that they'll come back and do the rest. I've gone out and I wrote 3 window job and went back and sold a whole house. They needed them the day I was there, but they started with 3. I'll do a door, anything, just to show them how professional we are.
Yeah, I love all that stuff. And I don't want to sound goofy, but the level of anxiety, you can just see it coming down where it's warm and fuzzy, and people want to feel warm and fuzzy and safe. And that's exactly what the experience seems like to me.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. I work for a great organization, so I can't say, but any small business, this was a small business back in the day. Everybody starts that way. And how do you can just take from everyone that does well. And this is a company just has blown away everywhere. I just saw that This Old House sent out a survey to 1,000 homeowners who already had bought thermal windows in their home. And we have a 27% market share. And that's on a national level. There's tens of thousands of people who do window and door work. And it's no different than plumbing. Isn't it your background, Rick? I believe it is.
Yep.
Yeah. How many plumbers are out there in this world, right? But you can always differentiate yourself. And I think it's clear communication. I think it's transparency. I think it's giving them their expectations up front, but assuring them that, hey, this won't be done twice. You won't need it to be done twice. And just reading the client, really understanding their buying style and what's important. And that's what you would lead with. But then I still would fill in a few other things that they might not have thought about, just to make sure. So
I love it. Amazing. Love the whole experience. I just think it's phenomenal. Appreciate this, John. I learned a ton. And I always love learning, and I always love learning from somebody who really cares and is really passionate about what they do. And you can hear that in your voice, the way you talk about Renewal by Andersen. So yeah, Rob, do you have anything else to add or?
Yeah, starting tomorrow, we're gonna have a 15-hour podcast with John on, and
Oh
bring
yeah,
a bring a
you're
lunch
way
and,
better. Yeah.
and just do this in your bathroom so you don't have to leave the toilet, and then you just take all these notes because John just gave us 30 years, 40 years of sales experience. And
Oh,
man, if watch it again, watch it on repeat if you're trying to learn sales 101. John has given you so much that me as a guy, I've been in the people business a long time, I mean a long time. And I just learned a handful of things and could certainly sharpen up on a few others that I know that I'm already good at. If you can't learn something from what John just told you, there might not be much help from you. And you certainly, as a buyer, as a homeowner, you can learn quite a bit about not only the honest approaches I mentioned, but just tell that new salesman that's coming by to pitch you on a new toilet or new windows or a new roof or a new bathroom. Tell them exactly what's on your mind because it will shorten the time that it takes you to get from A to B to find out if that's a good company for you or to find out just how good of a fit that it is because you might love the way that I sound over the phone or John or Rick, but when you meet that person, they come into your home and they offer to take off their shoes on a crappy day like we're all having soon with weather. Just those other things, you'll be able to see them firsthand. So many golden nuggets there, John. Man, thank you.
yeah,
Well, we
really appreciate
appreciate the opportunity and yeah, this is as good. All this information really is as important to really the homeowner or the client, whoever the client is. That's what you're taking care of them. And
Well,
they
now we got to
help
have a
us.
podcast where John learns something from me, which is probably not going to happen
it.
because I'm learning from John as I always have been.
Yeah.
But this is wonderful. John, I'd love to have you back on again. And so that we could really I kind of saw probably 3 to 5 different things that we could really take about, pick that
Hmm.
apart and really get specific on personality types or marketing or uh, shoot, just the part where that you said that third party company calls in and asks during construction. How many contractors out there having somebody check in the middle of construction? Man,
Hmm.
that's solid. That's dangerous ground if you're not doing a good job. So,
100%.
so
Yeah.
many things there we could learn. Rick,
Love it.
your final thoughts and tell us what you think.
I loved it. I love everything that you had to say, John. I'm on board. I think it's phenomenal. Yeah, definitely. We'll have you back on. Rob, thank you so much for connecting me with John. I really appreciate it. It's
That
always
was
a
easy.
pleasure.
John's the best.
Oh yeah, I bet. Yeah, I'm sure he's a blessing. Appreciate you coming on, John. This is the Two-Way Street podcast with Rick Harris of Workbook Consulting, my good friend Rob Berry of St. Louis Bathroom Renovation, and we were joined today by John Farmer from Renewal by Andersen. Really appreciate your time, John. We'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Be safe.
Thank you,
Thanks.
John. And for all our viewers, make sure you like, share, and subscribe if you're on YouTube or Spotify. And we're going to share this on social media as well. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys learned a thing or two.
To learn more about Rick, go to his website, workbootconsulting.com. And to learn more about Rob, go to his website, sdlbr.com. Until next time, work on bridging that gap. Remember, it's always a two-way street.